I think creating fan arts have greatly helped me in various ways as an artist. And for one, it has taught me how to infuse my art style with the original one.
Welcome to the Pixel Paper Podcast, a series where we get to know the creative processes behind up-and-coming digital artists. My name is Noor, graphic designer and work-in-progress artist, and I'll be your host for this series. From LA to Tokyo, this artist seems to have traveled the world through her animations. Deisa gives us a lot of detailed insight into her fascinating work with clients like Amazon Tokyo Fashion Week, her process behind her magical animated music videos, the webtoon she makes, and even the struggles she has faced as she has grown through her journey. And right at the end, she also talks about her experiences in Seoul Illustration Fair. And we also talk a lot about fan art and its place in the art world. So as you can see, this is a totally packed episode. There's a lot that we talk about, so really get comfy for this one because it's a long and truly wonderful ride. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Deisa Hidalgo. P.S. This episode does feature some dog barking, so I hope you can excuse that. I wasn't able to fix it post-production, but it does get better towards the second half of the episode, so I do hope you will still enjoy this episode. Hi Deisa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. For the benefit of our audience, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so hey everyone, I am Deisa and I do graphic design and illustration as my main profession. And I'm currently pursuing my further studies here in Los Angeles, California, because I feel like I still have a lot to learn in my field. And in 2017, I graduated with a degree in multimedia arts in the De La Salle College of St. Benilde in Manila, Philippines. And quickly after that, I was lucky enough to land a job that mainly focuses on social media content creation and planning. So in my spare time, I often go to comic conventions, but sadly, because of COVID, most of them got canceled, and right now everything's just all like virtual spaces. And I guess lastly, I create illustrated music videos and also exploring more on web comics on the side just so I could release some stress from school and work. And yeah, I love coffee and hopefully someday I get to own a cafe.
Wow, that was a really detailed introduction. I mean, there's so much
Yeah.
that we can talk about, but I just want to let the audience know why I wanted to interview you. I've been following you for about a year, maybe more, and I started following you because you have this really kind of ethereal, really magical style, and you mentioned you do animated music videos, which I thought was super fascinating. So can you just take us through your art journey, particularly your digital art journey, and how you got to where you are right now?
Okay. Thank you so much for, being supportive of my work as well. Because honestly, when I was starting out, it wasn't really like smooth sailing in my art journey because there were like tons of course, challenges and obstacles here and there, but it's been such an exciting ride as well. And as cliche as it may sound, I have loved drawing since I was in preschool. So I started out at such a young age. And because of that, that's when I realized that, hey, I love drawing. And I started coloring the coloring books and just drawing in every paper that I get. And after that, I think I stopped drawing for a bit and focused more on my studies because when I was in, I think, first grade onwards until sixth grade, I wasn't really a good student, like the top student or something. And after that, I remember in high school, I hung out with my high school friends, and they started influencing me with Vocaloid videos, and they're really popular in Japan, and they're kind of like the voice synthesizer product that they have a range of different singers as well. And most of the music videos that they create they have these really artsy illustrated music videos, like animations of the
Mm-hmm.
singers themselves, along with the music that they create. And at that time, I was really drawn to them because they were really colorful. And from then on, I have aspired to create one someday. And I guess some of the people who create those was Deco 27 and Honeyworks. And I've mentioned in the previous podcast that I was invited to that Honeyworks has been such a big influence in the illustrated music videos because they have really fun tracks and vivid animations. Like each song from Vocaloid has different unique styles, which really captivated me back then. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was around 2009, 2011.
Mm.
And digital art wasn't as big as it is now. So I was
Yeah.
mainly creating traditional art and sketches on my Sketchpad notebooks, filler notebooks. And because of that, I was really having trouble in trying to find ways to actually do an animation or like video work. So I tossed that aside because also drawing tablets weren't really a big thing back then, and it was really hard to create digital art because most of the artists back then would like sketch something in their sketch pads and then they're gonna scan it. And I didn't
Mm.
have the scanners, I didn't have like a fancy computer to draw on or to like enhance the sketches that I have in my notebooks. So
Mm.
that was such a problem for me. But that didn't hinder me from practicing because most of my friends from high school also does like comics, and they also draw like tons of stuff. So they were also like one of the reasons that inspired me to practice more because I saw that they were really good and I was like lagging behind. So I practiced from then on, and then I um, then I then we're in pre-college. I actually didn't think of what do you call this? I didn't actually think of enrolling to an art school, and originally I really wanted to take in international studies with like a major in Japanese language.
Mm.
But the day that I was gonna enroll in the university that I was supposed to enroll to, I got an acceptance letter from the art school that I applied to. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, maybe I should give it a shot. I should try multimedia arts in Manila. And so I went there, and to my surprise, there were like tons of creative people. And I was so overwhelmed because back in our province, there wasn't really much artsy kids in our school. And when
Mm.
I stepped in college, there were just so many. And I was lucky enough to also land a scholarship from the Office of Culture and Arts and the official yearbook organization from our college. And I was actually working as a student scholar during college to help ease the tuition fees because they get really expensive
Mm.
because art school.
Yeah.
And I guess being part of those organizations have also given me opportunities to get to know other creatives from varied courses
Mm.
because anyone, regardless of the course that you're taking, you can always join the organizations in our school. So I get to work with people from other departments, and then I got to contribute like designing posters for our school productions, and I guess that also opened up my mind when it comes to like school productions, live musicals, and I
Mm.
think that those experiences also add up to how I became who I am right now. Like the
Mm.
process of the things that I do. And I guess graduating from college and transitioning from student life to work life wasn't as grand as I have expected it to, but there were like tons of pressure here and there and
Yeah.
projects that I really wasn't ready to take on, but miraculously survived it. And I guess I've also met the best and worst people through the organizations that I was, and dealing with them really, I guess that made me mature as an artist, because I guess the artist who I was back in college is kind of different from the artist that I am right now.
Mm.
And the career path that I have envisioned myself to take on has just so many plot twists, and they were like beyond my control, but it led to where I am right now. And I get confused, frustrated, and lost at times most of the time, but I take it, I guess, one day at a time, and I guess I try my best to figure things out as I go. And
Mm.
that's where I'm at right now for
Mm.
like the creative journey that so far I am where I'm at right now. So yeah.
Mm. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a really kind of rich history you have there, which is kind of, I can see it's really molded you into who you are. But you mentioned that you're not the same artist that you are as you are in college. So
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, with your style, has it
Mhm.
developed over time, or was it always like this kind of sketchy, kind of comic or webtoon type of style?
I think my art style has kind of, I guess, evolved over time, because I remember in high school, most of my artworks were highly semi-realistic. Like
Mm.
it's heavily influenced by Final Fantasy type of
Mm.
artworks, like 3D
Mm-hmm.
art and all of that stuff. Like
Yeah.
all I've always leaned more on semi-realism, because a lot of people, like most of the popular artworks that I have been seeing back then, were it's either hyper realism or
Yeah.
like realism art. So I was
What
really
year was
practicing.
this?
I think it was around 2011,
Mm.
2011
Okay.
to 2012. And
Okay.
then that was early on, like the time wherein I finally decided to actually practice drawing. And like everyone else, I had trouble finding my art style back then, and I wanted to try out different types of art styles, wherein
Mm.
ultimately I got confused. And
Mm-hmm.
it was really tough, because I wanted to try a simple art style, but then at the same
Mm.
time I really wanted to try um doing realistic, like hyper realistic art.
Right.
So yeah, so I guess those times are like my confusion days. And I guess
Mm.
I was really indecisive back then as compared to now, wherein after undergoing, I guess, like undergoing different types of challenges and like encounter with different professors in the creative field, I figured that I'm more decisive right now when it comes to drawing, and I have consistently been drawing like this sketchy um, art style for like I guess a few years now. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
Right.
kind of like the difference that I could kind of see looking back at it
Mm.
now.
Mm-hmm. And what made you take the turn towards the sketchy kind of art style as opposed to realism?
I guess mainly because well, for one thing, I'm kind of lazy to actually finish super realistic artworks.
Yeah.
And I guess I wanted to focus more on the sketchy and simple kind of artworks, because I also wanted to
Mm.
focus on details. like backgrounds and sometimes clothes and expressions. So I wanted to express more I wanted to express more stuff through the line art, through the
Mm.
expressions of the character, and like
Mm-hmm.
also practicing my background because I feel like I can't really do super realistic backgrounds, but
Mm-hmm.
something stylized really um I kind of lean more on like stylized type of backgrounds and illustrations as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think in a way it's also more relatable. Like when you see kind of sketchy art styles, like even when I post on social media, like I remember
Hmm.
posting literally just a few sketches. It was kind of like a comic type of thing. And I didn't put in effort into it at all, but it was about the emotion that it
Right?
conveyed, and it
Hmm.
like blew up. Like, you know, it
Yeah,
just
right?
got so much engagement. And I feel
True,
like people just
true.
relate to that more. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
And
that's
I
quite interesting.
also, yeah, and I also figured that a lot of people um like lean more into like how they feel towards an artwork rather
Mm,
than how it looks more most of the time, because I have like artworks that I spend more time in, like I heavily render it and I spend
mm,
like
mm-hmm.
so much hours, like I go 8 hours on it, and then it'll get
Right.
like little attention, and I was like, dang, I thought that was gonna be like I thought that was gonna be a
Mm,
banger tweet,
yeah.
but then I post a small sketch, like I'll be like, I'm broke, and then I'll draw a I'll draw a funny face, and then people would like it and people would retweet it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
like that
I mean,
feel.
yeah, exactly. I mean, considering we're on the subject, you mentioned that you had a job in kind of social media and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So, do you think social media plays a big role in your artwork, and how do you use it as part of your practice?
I think it has become such a pivotal point in my career as an artist because back
Mm,
then, again, I started with DeviantArt and Tumblr,
mm,
where there
mm.
nothing like social media, and
Yeah.
there was lesser pressure back then. I
Mm, yeah, yeah.
mean, I was following different artists like Yu Mei, and I've been waiting for their artworks, their comics for like every month because I know that
Mm-hmm.
they spend so much time there. And
Mm,
I think social media became such a big thing right now. And I think seeing as how competitive the market has been lately, I think having a social media presence is also crucial to some. And I think for me, I mean, for us designers and creatives, I feel like it's also something kind of important in a way
yeah. Yeah.
because but of course, in some with regulation and not too much obsession with social media.
Mm,
And I really try my best to not indulge myself too much in the marketing side of it, but
right.
rather I see it as a platform to connect with fellow artists. So usually I use, like, a lot of people would view social media as a marketing platform, which it's kind of leaning more
Yeah,
nowadays,
true. True.
especially Instagram. Like I see so
Mm-hmm.
much shops right there, and I'm like,
Yeah, because of that shop tab.
I
Yeah.
know, and I'm like, God, I just wanted to have like a chronological order for
Yeah.
the posts.
Yeah,
And
literally.
usually I just look for fellow artists and just follow them because I really want to like um connect with them, and
Mm,
hopefully I get to like do collabs with them
yeah.
because the creative world is really small in a way because everyone knows everyone, and it's just a matter of connecting, like networking in a way.
mm,
And realistically speaking, having a social media in this field really helps in reaching out to prospective clients and possible collabs. So I really
yeah.
try my best to update it regularly and just to keep myself afloat in the social media bubble because I think it's also important that you put yourself out there because This is another comparison of me from the past, like Deisa from the past. So back then, when I was using Tumblr and all that stuff, I had this mindset that um, like there's like overnight success. A lot of
Mm.
the people that I follow have like this one Tumblr post and it has like 100,000 notes, and suddenly they have like 20,000 followers,
Mm.
like thousands and thousands of followers. So in my head, I was like, maybe if I become mysterious and not post anything, then a random person will suddenly find me and bam, I'm gonna be famous. I mean, I had that mindset, so I never posted anything. I would just post
Mm.
some cryptic screenshots of the sketches that I've been doing, and then I wouldn't use the hashtags. I won't use anything because I knew that someone out there would like retweet my stuff and suddenly bam, I'm famous. I had that mindset, but then I realized after a few years, I was like, hey, Lisa, you need to put yourself out there. And
Mm.
I realized that it really takes like so much work to actually build like an audience in the social media bubble, because you really have to be consistent, especially now with the algorithm and all that shenanigans in Facebook, in Instagram and Twitter. It's really difficult to keep afloat. So you really need to be consistent in order for you to like get yourself known or stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I guess that's the thing for social media with me. It's really important, but with regulation, I guess it would give
Mm.
you a more positive effect rather than the negative ones, because everything has like a negative side, and also social media, like obsessive ones, is really bad. Like I
Mm.
really try my best to not look at the likes much and affect myself with all the likes and
Mm.
like having small likes and then comparing it to other people who have like 100,000 followers and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I try my best to like keep my mind off of social media
Mm.
sometime and come back at it again after a while. After I
Mm.
kind of refresh my mind, I'll be like, okay, now we're back in social media, like a social
Mm-hmm.
media break. I think that's
Yeah.
important as well.
Yeah. Definitely. I think so because it can really get a lot.
Hmm.
But that's great. I think you gave some really good advice for people to kind of regulate their social media. But
Hmm.
I noticed as well you on social media you post a lot of you mentioned earlier animated music videos, and I'm really kind of
Hmm.
excited to get to know more about this. I mean, I just want to know what's your like process to make them from start to finish.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the illustrated music videos, I actually am the slowest person to ever create music videos because um, I guess one of the reasons as to I guess why I started doing this is just because I was just curious of the process
Mm.
that video editors are doing when it comes to
Mm.
illustrated music videos, and I really wanted to create stuff for the music that I like, and it was really out of boredom that I started
Mm.
creating, and I never had a background in video editing,
Right.
and I really despised it during college when we had like a video editing class. So back then I really had a hard time
Mm.
tinkering in Premiere, and
Right.
especially After Effects. Like that software really traumatized me. I mean, looking at the fancy stuff um and all of the items there, I was like, oh damn,
Mm.
I don't want to learn this, but I need to learn this. So I have a very flexible process when it comes to illustrated music videos.
Mm.
So I guess I usually start with getting attached to a particular song. Like I listen to a
Mm.
lot of songs, and then if I kind of like have a spark, if something
Mm-mm.
sparks within me when I listen to a
Yeah,
particular music, I'll be like, damn, this is it. This is the track.
yeah.
And then I listen to it endlessly. So I put it on loop,
Yeah.
and then after that I kind of doze off, I daydream. And as
Mm.
as funny as it sounds, it usually does the job for me, and I play the
Oh,
music thousands
interesting.
of times while imagining different kinds of scenarios. And I have
Mm-hmm.
like a pen. I always make sure that I have a pen and a notebook beside me for sketching rough drafts, and I
Mm.
guess also put some notes for me to not forget the flow of the story. And
Right.
usually, I also put my phone beside me when I sleep because I get these random bursts of ideas
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'm
Yeah.
almost sleepy.
About
Like,
to sleep. Yeah.
yeah, when I'm about to sleep, I'll be like, "Dang, I have this
Yeah.
banger idea," and then I'm too lazy to get up and get
Exactly.
my paper, so I just go to like recording, and I'll be like, okay, this is the idea, and then and then I would just
That's
record
smart.
myself, and then I just get back to it the next morning. And so I guess after that, once I finish the rough draft, I usually start illustrating all the scenes. And like this part really takes up the bulk of my time because
Mm.
I find spare time. Like for example, I'm having school, and then I would just draw on my spare time. So
Mm.
it goes on different times, and
Yeah.
depending if I also am in the mood to draw. And most of the time I have these art blocks in between, and I pause
Yeah.
a project, and I'll be like, dang, I can't draw. And so it usually takes up, that's why I usually produce like a music video like a minimum of 3 weeks, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And usually takes longer. And I guess after
Right.
finishing all the scenes, I move on to stitching and animating everything in After
Mm-hmm.
Effects. And
Okay.
most of the time, I also have extra scenes that I need to take off. And sometimes I feel so salty that some scenes are like emitted from omitted
Right.
from the video, because most of the time those scenes are the things that I spend so much time on, and I'll be like, it
Mm.
doesn't fit anything anywhere in the story. And I'll be like, okay, I guess I need to remove it. And yeah, usually it's like 2 to 3 scenes that I remove originally from the
Mm.
original draft, and it doesn't make it to the final cut. So yeah, that's technically
Mm.
um my flow when I create illustrated music videos.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's cool. So, do you do frame by frame? Do you draw every frame?
Yeah, I
Oh,
draw frame
okay.
by frame most of the time because although I wanted to try like After Effects kind of character animation, but I
Mm.
I saw the tutorials, and I got scared because there's just so many things to do as compared
Yeah.
to frame by frame.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. And
I
do you
stick to
use?
frame by frame.
Uh-huh. And what do you use to draw?
I use Clip Studio Paint. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. Clip Studio.
although when I first started out, like the first illustrated music video that I created, I used Adobe Photoshop because I didn't have Clip Studio Paint back then.
Mm-hmm.
But after
Mm-hmm.
a while, I shifted to Procreate and Clip Studio Paint.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. And have you done these animated music videos commercially before for clients, or is it just all completely personal?
Yeah, I did some. Um,
Okay.
I did some for clients, but not
Mm-hmm.
commercially. It's for personal, I mean for their personal use.
Mm. Okay. And how does the process differ at all?
Um in the beginning there are differences. Like for example, after they send me an inquiry with regards to like illustrated music videos or anything related to illustration or animation, I often set a meeting with them and discuss the entire
Mm-hmm.
project just so we're on the same page. And
Yeah.
I always ask them what they want it to look like, and from there I send in some mood boards just to show the
Mhm.
visual aesthetic that will be implemented in the video. And
Mhm.
usually they reply quickly. And if they're cool with it, then I move on to storyboarding, which is really
Mhm.
crucial, which I find crucial to the entire process when working with
Mm,
a
yeah.
client because
Yeah.
once you have a storyboard, it'll show them how the video would flow and how the
Yeah.
animation would look like in the actual video, and it
Yeah.
will also give them an idea on what to expect. And
Mhm.
the rest of the process is technically the same. So after they approve the storyboard, I start doing all the illustrations, all the visual assets and
Mhm.
animations, and then I send them back the rough draft, and then
Mhm.
it's open for revisions. And I usually give like a maximum of 2 revisions, and if they
Mhm.
exceed the 2 revisions mark that is included in my fee, then I would charge
Mm.
them additional ones, like
Mhm.
additional fees, because this is because I have bad experiences with clients
Mhm.
wherein it goes back and forth hundreds of times, like
Yeah.
it's endless revisions. That's
Yeah, of
why
course.
like that's hell,
Yeah.
especially if you're doing videos and you don't like to render stuff over and over and over
Mm. Yeah,
again.
exactly. Exactly.
That's why at the beginning of like the project brief, I always tell them that, hey, this fee is inclusive of a maximum of
Mm.
2 revisions, and exceeding revisions from those would be like, I would be charging you this
Mm,
fee.
mm, mm.
And when they say okay, cool, and then I would let them sign the contract and all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's also like for safety,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
so you won't be bombarded with so much
Mm.
revisions, like 5 revisions, 10
Mm.
revisions. That's
Yeah,
hell.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Of course, I can imagine.
that's my process for client works.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And most of these music videos, I guess you can call them fan art, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you? I mean, you do a lot of fan art. So how do you
Mhm.
think that that has contributed or changed your creative process? And do you consider fan art to be quote unquote true art? Because I guess some people may argue that it's not because it's not technically your.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like what is your take on
Yeah.
that?
Mhm. I think as a fellow fan artist, I think creating fan arts have greatly helped me in various ways as an artist.
Mm.
And for one, it has taught me how to infuse my art style with the original one, which
Mm.
is
Mm.
pretty tricky because for me, I've always watched animes and like read tons
Mm-hmm.
of mangas, and I've always
Yeah.
created fan arts for those.
Mm.
And also drawing them using your own style also
Yeah.
takes up like so much work. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just copying, it's
Yeah.
infusing your own artwork with the original artist's artwork. And I
Yeah.
guess making fan arts have made me improve drawing interaction between characters, and
Mm.
also putting them in different settings, which is,
Mm.
I think, is a very cool thing to derive when
Yeah.
you're doing fan arts, because a lot of
Yeah.
people have like fanfics and
Yeah.
like alternate universe wherein the
Mm. Mm. Mm.
characters from like this particular series would
Yeah.
be like in a different alternate
Mm. Mm. Mm.
universe and like different settings, which is, I think, is cool. And
Yeah.
I think it has generally helped me in improving myself as an artist, especially also in composition. And
Mm.
I think creating fan arts for me is not just about copying the original character or the person or like the original content, but actually showing a new side of them from your
Mm.
own perspective, like creative perspective. And I think that labeling something as true art really doesn't help anyone in the art scene, because art for me is very subjective and
Mm.
anything can be considered as art. And what
Mm-mm.
I think is art may not be the same with another person. And in this case,
Yeah.
I consider fan arts as art because I view it as an extension of ourselves, showing and expressing
Yeah.
our love towards a certain person, a certain series, a certain song, and whatever thing that you're currently obsessing on. And
Mm.
I guess for me, after all, art is all about expressing oneself. And I think creating fan arts is also a form of expression where for
Mm-hmm.
artists like us. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's my take
Yeah.
on fan art
Yeah,
because
that's cool.
yeah, I've also like encountered people who downgrade fan artists,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it makes me feel sad because, they're pulling down their fellow artists, which
Mm.
is kind of sad.
Yeah.
And they
No.
can't see
Yeah.
that they're like doing the same thing. They're like expressing both of themselves, like both
Mm-hmm.
parties are just, expressing their love towards art, towards a certain series, and yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess it is subjective. And I mean, also, you're kind of, like you said, like, for example, if you're illustrating an alternate universe or if you're kind of putting them in a
Mhm.
different scene or scenario, it's kind
Mhm.
of expressing your own way of thinking. So it's
Mhm.
fusing, it's kind of just like inspiration from
Yeah,
this place. Like, for example, anyone can get inspired from anywhere, but fan
true.
art is just getting inspired from a particular thing, you know?
Mhm.
And yeah, I
And
guess it's kind of the same thing.
I think it's also like it's kind of like it has the same idea with the draw this in your style. I think that
Mm,
has the
yeah,
same like idea with doing fan arts. Like you're doing a fan art of
yeah,
someone else's artwork. And
yeah, true.
also there's like a lot of like Ghibli redraws, and a lot of times
Yeah.
people would put their favorite anime characters in the Ghibli setting, which is I think is cool because I never thought of it that way, and they put on a whole new perspective that hey, it would be cool if this character would be how this character would be
Uh
like
huh.
Sophie. I think it's
Right,
also
right, right.
cool that they have like they mix and match different kinds of stuff to make fan art and to show their love
Mm,
for that particular character. So I think
yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I
Mhm.
think that's a good perspective that you've shared.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to talk about your webtoon that you are doing. So could you tell us a bit
Yeah.
more about could you tell us a bit
Oh
more
my god.
about how you got into the story and the writing and all of that?
So, oh my god, the webtoon. I actually started writing the script for my current webtoon back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was feeling a lot of things back then, and
Mm,
that was when I was transitioning from student life. I wasn't really
right.
that that settled in with work back then.
Mm,
So there was just so many things that I decided to like start drafting a script
right.
and slash a summary for the webtoon. But I never really had the time to actually sit down and work on the comic. So two
Mm-hmm.
years, I think 2 to 3 years passed. Like I think it was 2020 when I went
Mm-hmm.
back to check the script again because it was just hanging around in my G Drive, like my G Docs. It's
Mm.
just there. It's just like, okay, webtoon idea. And then 2018. And then, so I opened it again and thought, hey, I don't want to put this to waste because there's just so many things that I have already typed in, and I
Mm.
already finished the entire summary for the webtoon. So I was like, okay, I got back and revised it, and there was just a lot of changes and on both the plot and the characters. So it was originally a short story with only 10 episodes, but I
Mm.
decided to make it a bit longer because I just chose pain. And I think one of the reasons as to why I began writing the story was the experience that I had after graduating college. And
Mm.
it's not something dark and tragic though, but I wanted to tell a story that would show how hard and challenging it is to be an artist. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of getting inspiration from. And as someone
Mm.
from the Philippines, being a creative has always been a profession that's frowned upon. I mean, it's not
Mm.
like the medical fields wherein, oh, everyone's
Yeah.
amazed by you. But once they know that you're like a graphic designer, they'd be like,
Mm.
oh, so you're just drawing in your free time? It's mostly like that. Or they're going to be
Mm.
like, oh, do you even earn much in that field? It's kind of like that.
Right.
So most of the time I would just feel down, and
Mm.
a lot of times people would take you lightly and even mock you for using your hobby as your profession, which is not supposed
Mhm.
to be the case. And so I wanted to use this platform for webtoons to kind of let creatives have more confidence in themselves, and to let the world know that it also takes guts to become a
Mhm.
creative as well. And I
Yeah.
guess from there, I already drafted the entire summary and some chapters of the webtoon. So I did some
Mm.
scripts, I did some like the character backgrounds and all that stuff, and did the storyboards afterwards. And I was actually super hesitant to create a webtoon because, one, I don't have any experience in webtoon creation. Like, I
Mm.
read a lot of webtoons, but I
Yeah.
never actually tried to create one. And
Mm.
I did have a comic class from college, but then
Yeah.
it wasn't the webtoon type of comics, but rather like a more westernized type of webtoon. I mean,
Mm.
a
Right. Right. Right.
layouts. And number
Yeah.
two, I barely have an experience in using Clip Studio Paint,
Mm.
because I just purchased it when it was on sale, because I was like,
Mhm.
damn, everyone's using Clip Studio Paint, and I see like a lot of people would post stuff that they could do in Clip Studio Paint. So I was like, oh wow, you could do that. You could do those shortcuts. You could do comics, and I was like,
Mm.
and I was begging my dad. I was like, can we buy Clip Studio Paint? And after purchasing it, I got scared of the interface because there's just so many things in the Clip Studio Paint
Yeah.
interface. I was like, damn, I was so overwhelmed. So I closed it and never checked it again after a few months.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
but now we're friends. We're good friends,
That's good.
USP besties. And I guess lastly, I was too scared to disappoint people for with regards to the webtoon, because that's the kind of person I am. It's kind of like I mean, I think a lot of my anxiety usually takes out too much of my brain space, that I think
Mm.
too much.
Yeah.
So I'm just scared to disappoint people. And so I really had to search for tutorials on how to do the sizing, the size of the text that is readable for webtoons, and all of that stuff. So this part really took the longest in my process in finally
Mhm.
working in a webtoon. So
Mhm.
it was really scary. I mean, up until now, I still experiment on the typesetting, like the font sizes that I use on each episode. I was really asking my friends like, hey, can you read this for me and just tell me if the font size is too small, or if you can't read anything. And
Mm.
I was really nervous when I published the prologue, and mainly because a lot of people have high expectations for the webtoons, when in fact
Mm.
I'm kind of insecure with how I do the storytelling for the webtoon, which is why
Mm.
sometimes I'm really down, like, am I gonna push this through? But I'm like,
Mm.
okay, let's just push this through. Let's just finish this series, and we can do another, like, we can try another one again after a while.
Mm.
So yeah, that's basically a backstory on how I started with this first series for webtoon
Mhm.
canvas.
Mhm.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. And how many episodes are you planning for this one in particular?
I'm planning on doing, I guess, minimum of 20 episodes, and maximum
Wow.
is
Okay.
50. But I'm
Okay.
usually thinking that maybe I would max it to 50 episodes, because I kind of want to cover some stuff. So
Mm.
if I can make it, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Hopefully.
That's like, it's really cool that you're doing that. I mean, I know how much effort goes into making webtoons, so
Yeah,
kudos to you.
storytelling. Like doing the pacing as well for each
Mm.
episode is also challenging for me. Like I don't know how to pace the story. Like what happens here?
Mm.
Like is this gonna be resolved in like two episodes? Or like if this scene is gonna take
Mm.
up two episodes, kind of like that. So
Mm.
that's kind of like one of the obstacles that I'm also thinking like on
Mm.
practicing more right now, like pacing the
Mm.
story, doing the storyline, plot
Mm.
stuff.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. So do you have secondary input like from friends or anyone who kind of helps you with that?
Yeah, I usually ask my close friends, I'll be like, can you be my beta reader, please? Please, I beg.
Yeah.
And I would just like deliver coffee to their place. I'll be like, hey, I got you. I got you covered. Usually it's like that.
Uh-huh. Cool. Yeah, well, I wish you all the best with that webtoon. It's really
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
You've also, I mean, I guess you work as a freelance illustrator, so I've noticed when I looked on your
Hmm.
website, you've got some really cool clients. Like you worked for Amazon Tokyo Fashion Week. That's really cool.
Oh, oh
Could
yeah.
you tell us that
Oh, thank you.
experience, what it was like?
Actually, it was an opportunity from my first full time work because I was
Mm.
working as a designer for a local fashion retail brand, and they usually
Mm.
showcase their collections in the Amazon Tokyo Fashion Week annually.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I was on leave that day when the art director called me, because I was out um in day six's concert. Yeah, I was I was out. Actually, I was on leave, but my friend in the design team actually told the art director that I can actually do an animation for a backdrop,
Mm.
because the art director at that time was looking for someone to do a simple black and white animation for the collection that will be
Mm.
showcasing for the fashion week.
Mm.
So
Mm.
in my mind back then, I never really animated something like frame by frame. It's
Mm.
usually just for fun, like 3 frames, 2 frames type of animation for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I was like, okay, yeah, I can do something. I can do an
Mm.
animation. And I was like, damn, Desa, what the hell did you do? Because on top of that, I have like work, like full-time work,
Uh-huh. Yep.
under that particular brand. And then on top of that, I'll be animating stuff with in such a short amount of time, because they
Mm-mm.
needed like, I guess, 2 weeks, within two
Oh
weeks
gosh.
So it
Yeah.
was it was really a challenge to juggle my daily workloads from
Mm-hmm.
our office. And although my our art director was really kind and understanding during the entire process, but one of the managers was really a pain, because he was the type to not understand the time and effort one has to put in animating
Mm.
everything. So he was like, "Is it done? Is it done?" And I was like, "Dang, dude, chill." I mean, it was just a few days after like the art director talked to me, and then he was like,
Mm.
"We should have this by the end of the week."
Oh
And I
my
had like
god.
and I was like, "Damn, dude, that's insane." And then he was interfering with the entire process, but after sending in the final video to the Japanese team, I was like so relieved. I've never been so relieved in my life, like passing in.
Uh-huh.
It was just actually a loop of two things, like birds flying, and then like
Mm.
a looping animation of the fields,
Mm-hmm.
like the grass in the fields, something like that.
Mm.
It was a success, and it felt so surreal, because I really never expected my works to reach the Tokyo Fashion Week runway,
Yeah.
because it was such an out of the blue opportunity from our art director, because they never actually asked someone to animate stuff on the previous collections, on the previous runway shows. But it was just a blessing at that time that I was there, and then at that time they really needed someone to animate something, and I guess it was also a stroke of luck to have the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity knocking in the door.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
that sounds
really
amazing.
nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That's really cool, actually. And also, you've shown your work in Seoul Illustration Fair. So
Oh
could you also
yeah.
share about that experience as well?
Yeah, it was one of the most exciting events that I've been to so
Mm-hmm.
far, and it was actually such a big gamble on my part as well because I
Mm.
still had my full-time job during that
Oh,
time,
wow.
and the event went on for 4 days. So I needed
Mm-hmm.
to sacrifice my leaves for it because
Yeah.
I needed to actually put like buffer days, at least three
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
buffer like flight, and then
Mm.
like settling in, like finding things to decorate my booth for, because
Mm-hmm.
there's like luggage restrictions, and I didn't want to pay extra
Mm-hmm.
luggage because it's
Yeah, yeah.
expensive. So I had to file a leave for 7 days. I mean, thank God my boss was super supportive of me. I mean, initially she was
Mm.
like, "What, 7 days? That's like a lot of days to take a leave from in my workspace."
Oh,
So,
really?
but
Okay.
she let me go for like 7 days
Uh-huh.
because my work is like social media. So I'm really in charge of like the daily
Mm.
posts, like 3 posts per day. So like I do like
Mm.
tons of stuff, but I told her that I'll be doing those in advance, like all the content for those days that I'll be gone. I'll just create
Mm.
all the stuff and I'll compile it in a PSD file so that
Yeah.
my fellow designers could edit it um if ever there's like an emergency, or if they
Mm.
will change something like details of
Mm-hmm.
like the post or something. I would just leave the working file in my desktop. So
Mm-hmm.
that was settled in my workplace. And so I originally invited my family to go with me, but they were all busy with
Mm-hmm.
work. So I decided to
Mm.
invite some of my friends, and I didn't expect
Mm-hmm.
them to actually like go with me, but they were like, "Hey, let's go." And yeah, it made the trip extra memorable, and I had like a month to prepare for the fair, and it was super hectic because I needed to restock some prints and some sticker sheets and even tote bags from my local suppliers, and also arranged the packaging for my items. And more so, I also had to visualize the decorations that I'll be putting up my booth, because I was really curious in on how the other artists decorated their booths on the previous fairs, and everything is just looking so aesthetically pleasing. And I was like, damn, I need to work on my booth, like it should look presentable. And I mean, I guess moving forward, the fair was really scary for me because one, it was considered as one of the biggest illustration fairs in South Korea, and I was really
Yeah.
concerned about the language barrier and that it
Yeah.
might cause some miscommunication along the way.
Mm.
But
Mm-mm.
after the opening day and after the setup day, I realized that it wasn't so bad because a lot of people were just so nice, and they really do their best to communicate with me, like simple sentences, but
Mm.
it's good enough to communicate with me. And sometimes
Mm.
people would straight up talk to me in Korean, and I would be like, "Oh
Mm.
shoot!" Internally, I would panic internally, but I mean, I can understand a bit, but then it makes
Mm.
me panic sometimes. So I answer them in English,
Mm.
and they'll be like, "Oh, you're a foreigner," and I'm like,
Mm.
"Yes." And then it made me happy as well whenever someone would pass by my booth and they take a picture of it, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, that looks so cute," because I hung some of my tote bags, like the dog tote bags, and a
Mm.
lot of people are like, "Oh, cute dog," and I was like, "Yes, it's a Shiba." And then people would tell me stuff like, "Wow, I like your drawings," and it just makes you
Mm.
feel so grateful and
Yeah.
excited inside. Like, I'm so glad I'm an artist, and I'm so glad
Mm.
that I went to this fair. And you have
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts. And another thing that I enjoyed there was I also had the chance to meet some of my good friends from high school who went
Mm.
back to Korea after studying English in the Philippines. So
Oh,
after
okay.
so many years, I was able to meet up with them because
Mm.
the organizers of the fair would give out like 10 free tickets, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really difficult to get tickets if you don't have like someone you know in the fair, because it gets really the line gets so long if you're just gonna buy the
Mm.
ticket on site. So I gave
Yeah.
my friends like free tickets because I had so much. I was like, oh dang, what am I supposed to do with this? So I gave
Yeah.
them all to them, and they even gave me like congratulatory flowers and coffee, which was unexpected gesture from them. And I nearly cried because I was like, dang, okay, thank you guys, I didn't expect this, but but thank you. And after after a while, my friends like gave me, like they told me that I should go around the fair, because I was actually manning the booth all by myself. Because I told my
Mm.
friends that they should actually go around Seoul, because one of my friends had never been to Seoul. So I was like, go enjoy Seoul. And but then on like the second day, they were like, hey, go around the hall and we'll
Yeah.
be in your booth, we'll take
Mm.
care of it. And I was like, okay, thank you. So I went around the exhibit hall, and it made me realize how diverse and different people's art were. Like each booth was
Mm.
like an entirely different world that the artist had created. Like some originally the panels of the booths are colored white, like plain white, and a lot of people would have like different colors. Like some of them had like neon backgrounds and like dark backgrounds and different types of decorations. So it was really interesting, and it's kind of like a representation of the artist's persona, which was really interesting for me. And I guess before the event, I've always thought that there was this standard look when it comes to art, like, clean lines, good
Mm.
proportions, structured poses, and so on. But after being in the fair, I realized that art was more looser than I thought. I mean, than I have imagined. And I realized that everyone in the hall kind of embraces the uniqueness in
Mm.
themselves. And I guess that's my takeaway from the art fair. And I guess it was also something that I have pondered on and on after the fair. And I realized that I have been kind of leaning onto what other people want to see, or like the expectations of the people towards my art. Like I have always created something that I think that people would like, and the things that I create is more on like what I think would get more likes on social media, and
Mm.
it's less of what I want to create. And from
Mm.
then on, I began to create things that were closer to my heart and care less on how many likes it would get on social media, because I think at the end of the day, there will always be those people who freely won't vibe with your artworks. But of course, on a more positive note, there will be people who will be there looking forward to your next piece. So I guess, mm, like my last takeaway from that particular illustration fair was that create whatever makes you happy and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. That was like a. I was going on that journey with you when you were explaining.
It was
Yeah. No,
really
that's really cool.
interesting because
Mm-hmm.
there were local artists, and then there were also foreign artists,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing everyone's booth was like such a different experience. And talking with the artists themselves and asking them about their artworks really kind of sparked that connection,
Mm.
from one artist to another, which I think is really cool, because you
Mm.
realize that art really exists in different forms. Like you can't
Yeah.
imagine some artworks being like that, and then you don't expect something to actually look like this, but you like it nevertheless. So yeah, it's just a cool
Mm.
experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm glad that you were able to share that experience with us. It was really interesting, I think, very unique.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thank
I
you.
mean, we've talked for quite a long time now, but I just wanted to wrap up with the last question, which is, where do you see yourself moving forward as an artist?
Whew, the most difficult question of them all. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, in all honesty, I really have no idea where I'll be
Mm.
moving forward, but I
Well,
guess
where do you like to see yourself?
mhm. But at the very least, I kind of want to become an art director wherein I can
Mm.
mostly help designers conceptualize ideas and to
Yeah.
also guide them along the way, because I really like seeing people, like helping out other people in doing graphic design works. And a lot of my friends actually ask me about help in how to make their ideas better, and it always brings me like a sense of responsibility to help them out, and it always makes me happy whenever I see them succeed in that particular project of them. And I guess it's something that I've always wanted to do alongside, I guess hopefully in the future I get to teach about art, and to also help other people realize that art isn't something to is art being an artist isn't a profession that should be frowned upon, but it's a profession that someone has to be proud of, because
Mm-hmm.
it's really a very challenging profession as well. And it's not just a hobby, but it is a good profession that people should be more proud of in presenting
Mm-hmm.
themselves out there. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I really hope you're able to achieve that, like in the future, to be an art director. I think you'd be really cool with all your experiences. Like you'd be a really good director.
Yeah, I really like creating or like curating stuff and
Mm.
helping a team like conceptualize ideas and having brainstorms, rather
Mm-hmm.
than, I mean, I myself am not is not confident in my execution when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to graphic design. Like I
Mm.
am like 50-50 on that. I'll be like, nah, I'm not the
Mm.
best designer out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I would want to help other designers or like teams,
Mm-hmm.
creative teams, to actually conceptualize an idea for a project, for something, and hopefully guide them towards a good type of in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of like my vision right now, but whatever
Mm.
happens happens, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Deisa. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Noor.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. In fact, it was more like a journey with Deisa because she explains things really well, and I didn't actually have much to say because she said it already. I mean, everything that I was kind of curious about, she kind of said it, and it was just fascinating hearing about her really varied client experiences and also how she makes her really gorgeous music videos. So check her out on Instagram. All the links will be in the description. And with that, I'll see you next week for another episode of the Pixel Paper Podcast. Bye!